Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Nam, this holy name of Krishna, Nama Chintamani Krishnas. It is Chintamani, it is the giver of all desires. It fulfills all desires, like a touchstone, you know. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So in this case, you know, Chaitanya it's not referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically, but it's referring to Chaitanya in its literal terms, meaning full of life. let me know if you can hear me. Please mention in the comments if you cannot hear. So Chaitanya means full of life. It is lively, it's not dull. It's not something which is dull matter, in other words. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, the embodiment of all mellows. That is Rasa Vigraha. And then it is Purna, complete. It is complete. Shuddho, it is pure, always pure. And Nitya Mukta, always eternally liberated. Nitya Mukta means it's never contaminated by the material energy. Bhinatvam Nama Namina. So Abhinatvam means it is non-different from what? The Nami. Nama and Nami are non-different. Nami refers to the person whose name we're calling. Just like in the material world, if you call someone's name, they won't necessarily be present, because on the material level, a person's name and their actual person are separate. They're two different entities. But that's not the case when it comes to Krishna's name. Krishna's name is Abhinatvam. Abhinatvam Nama Namina. So Krishna's holy name is like a touchstone, fulfills all desires, material and spiritual. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. It is full of life. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, the embodiment of all mellows. It is very lively and full of sweetness, full of nectar. Just as Srila Rupa Goswami says that I do not know how much nectar these two syllables have produced, Krishna. So in that way, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Purna Shuddho, it is complete and pure. Purna and Shuddha, Nitya Mukta, completely untouched by the material energy. It is, as we say, Golokera Prema Dhana, Harinama Sankirtana, right? Golokera Prema Dhan, Harinam Sankirtana. It's not of this world. It may be in this world, but not of this world. In this world, but not of this world. So that's what it means by Nitya Mukto. And it is non-different from Krishna himself. Kinatvam Naminamina. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, the inaugurator of this Sankirtan mission, he has given some examples in his Shikshastakam of the mood which to have while chanting the holy name of Krishna. Just like in the second verse, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etādrashī Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrishamiha Janinanuraga. So he is basically saying that, oh my Lord, even though your holy name alone can render all benedictions to all living beings, even though your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and our Kirtaniyas have come. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda, and even though in these transcendental names you have invested all of your transcendental energies, and even though there are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names, and although you make yourself very easily approachable by chanting these holy names, by giving us the opportunity to chant these holy names, even though all of this, still I have no attraction for your holy name. So when we start to recognize this, we start to recognize our anarthas, that we actually don't have attraction for the all attractive, then we should develop this mindset, which is exemplified in the next verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishnana Amanena Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So some humility should develop by realizing these things, as mentioned in the second verse, that even though the holy name is so wonderful, so great, and Krishna is so merciful by making himself so easily approachable, I still have no attraction for these names, for this process of chanting the holy name, or very minimal attraction. That augments some humility. So with this humility, we can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Kirtaniya Sadahari. So on that note, we'll attempt to do a little small Sankirtan yagya here. Hare Krishna. Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Nami Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Askatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur-Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Detachment is not an artificial cultivation. Yes, initially it may be practiced, like we are practicing now. Today is EKqədAŠī. We are practicing to fast. But initially what we do, we don't really fast. We just abstain from grain. We call it EKādAŠī fast, but how is it fasting? If we are eating, then how can we call fasting? It's not fasting. We are abstaining from grains. But then as we become bhakti parishanu bhava, as our devotion increases, then we will become more detached from these needs of the body. There will be like fasting till 12. Not fasting the whole day. EKādAŠī fast is 12 noon. And then have some anukalpa. Anukalpa means food without grain. Food that are non-grain and non-bean foodstuffs. I suggest that when the devotees can, they can try to fast till evening. Everyone fasts here till 12. Then those who are more advanced, those who are developing taste for Krishna consciousness and developing attachment to Krishna, what they will do? How will we see their attachment to Krishna? So they will extend their fast a little more. They'll fast till, say, sunset. And when they become even more attached to Krishna, then what they will do? They'll fast till next morning. Actually, fasting means fasting till next morning. Fast and then break fast. Break fast the next morning. During the pada, there is a specific time when the fast is broken. So in this way, one practices to become detached from material nature. But ultimate detachment will come out of our attachment to Krishna. To the extent we will become attached to Krishna, to that extent we will become detached from matter. That is the natural development. Not that we artificially try to become detached and then we become attached to Krishna. No, it won't work like that. Rather, develop our attachment and then detachment to matter will automatically.
Harir Nama, Harir Namaiva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatirannata. In this particular age of Kali, Krishna descended as his holy name. There is no difference between him and his holy name. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur described how this holy name actually has everything and how this holy name will become manifest as Krishna himself. He's describing that Korno Randhra Patho Diya Hridi Mache Probeshya Borishoy Shudha Anupam. Entering through the passage of my ears, coming into the region of my heart, it continues and to shower an unique nectar. Then this holy name rises from the depth of my heart to the tip of my tongue. And while rising, it breaks my voice. And coming onto the tip of the tongue, it begins to dance in the form of the sound. And then he describes what this holy name does to one who chants offenselessly. He experiences all kinds of physical deformity in a way, vikar. Like, as I mentioned, it cracks the voice, it makes the legs to wobble, the body begins to tremble, tears flows incessantly from the eyes. And finally, it makes me faint. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, see what kind of behavior of this holy name. I took shelter of this holy name and see what it has done to me. And then he describes that this holy name is the bud of the Krishna Prem. Premer kolika nam adbhuto rashiro dham. This holy name is the bud of Krishna Prem, and it is the reservoir of unique mellows of Krishna Prem. And this bud, opening a little bit, reveals Krishna's form and Krishna's qualities. Ishat bikoshi puno dekhāy nijo rupo guno. Just opening a little, this bud reveals Krishna's roop or form and gun, his qualities. And then purno bikoshito hoiya broje more jai loiya. And opening fully, it takes me to Vrindavan. This holy name will take us to Vrindavan. Purno bikoshito hoiya broje more jai loiya dekhāy more sharupo bilash, and shows me his transcendental pastimes there. So in this way, this is actually the last poetry of the chapter of Sharanagati. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing what the holy name is. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very mercifully came to give it to us, which was otherwise rare even for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. But he is, without considering the qualification and eligibility, he is distributing this holy name. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we got this holy name. Everything is there in this holy name, so all we have to do is chant offenselessly with all sincerity. And then the holy name will do everything. The holy name will take us. Holy name is non-different from Krishna, therefore holy name is described as Nam Prabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of this holy name. And once you get the taste of this holy name, it's so relishable that Rupa Goswami is saying, Tunde tandavini bitanute tunda boli labdhai. When I chant this holy name, I desire to have many, many tongues. Just one tongue is not enough. There is so much joy. There is so much pleasure in this holy name that one desires to have many, many tongues. Rupa Goswami is saying it in his first person. And then he is saying, Karna krora kadambini ghatayate karnar bude spriyam. And when this holy name enters through my ears, I desire to have millions of ears. So that is the ultimate outcome of chanting the holy name. So we must chant with all sincerity, just hearing the holy name while we are chanting. And it's meant to be chanted congregationally. The more we are together congregationally, Sankirtan, when we get together, the more the merrier, more the number, the more powerful the effect of the holy name. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed his love, distributed Krishna Prem through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After giving this Mahamantra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared, Prabhu kahe kohilam ei Mahamantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, now I have given you this Mahamantra. Iha shabe japo giya koriya nirbandha. With full commitment, with full conviction, with full dedication, you chant this holy name. Iha hoite sarva siddhi hoibe tomar. From this chanting of the holy name, you will achieve all perfection. Sarva siddhi hoibe tomar. You'll achieve your perfection, the ultimate perfection, just by chanting this holy name of the Lord. Sarvakkhan bolo ithe bidhi nahi ar. Chant this holy name all the time, and then there won't be any consideration of rules and regulations of the scripture. Just chant the holy name all the time. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about any rules and regulations of the scripture, because the chanting of the holy name is the ultimate perfection of following the scriptures. The ultimate instruction of the whole scriptures is chanting the holy name. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to distribute this holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the congregational chanting, like everyone get together. The more the merrier, louder the better. In other ages, the mantra, the more silent was it, better it was. But with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, more louder it is, better it is. So this chanting should be done with as many people as possible and as loudly as possible. Of course, melodiously. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed this Krishna Prem through the chanting of the holy name only throughout India. But he predicted that this movement, this congregational chanting of the holy name, which is a Juga Dharma of this age, will spread all over the world. That is another unusual phenomenon. Generally, Vedic culture was practiced only in the land of India. But this mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to inundate the whole world. Whole world. All the towns and villages, in every town and village all over the world, this chanting of the holy name will take place. That means Krishna consciousness movement would spread all over the world in every town and village. And in order to accomplish that very rare achievement, he sent a very special personality. Who is that personality? Srila Prabhupada. It is Srila Prabhupada who went out of India, a 70-year-old person, left India, left Vrindavan, went to America, and single-handedly he started the chanting of this Sankirtan movement. Sitting under a tree in a park, just no mridanga, no flute, no violin, no harmonium, just a little kartal. And Prabhupada was chanting this beautiful, and people became attracted. The youth of America became attracted to Srila Prabhupada's chanting. They were not attracted by the philosophy so much. Many of the devotees told me that they didn't even understand what Prabhupada was talking about. But what they liked is Swami's music. The music that Swami made, they became attracted to that. And they came to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada completely transformed them. Completely transformed them. The youth of America, even in their remotest dream at that time, couldn't think of giving up drugs and sex. Their whole culture was based on drugs and sex. But Srila Prabhupada said, no intoxication, not even tea and coffee. They were not so much interested in tea and coffee as much they were interested in marijuana and hashish. They gave up. They gave up. They just followed whatever Srila Prabhupada wanted them to do. Prabhupada said, no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. And they said, yes, whatever you say, we will follow. And that's how Srila Prabhupada transformed those young Americans. And with their support, with their help, Srila Prabhupada spread this movement all over the world. Did it spread all over the world? There are two fathers of this Sankirtan Yajna. Generally have one father, one mother. But the unique aspect of Sankirtan is it has two fathers, no mother. Mother is there. I'll tell you about the mother. But it has two fathers. Who are those two fathers? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Sankirtanaika Pitaro. Pitaro means Pita means father. Pitaro means two fathers. Pita, Pitaro, Pitara. Two fathers. And who is the mother? The tongue is the mother. The tongue is the mother. So when we chant, the holy name becomes manifest. When we are chanting, what is the natural requirement? When you are eating, what is the natural requirement? You put the food in your mouth, right? You can't put food in your ears and say, I'm eating. You have to put it in your mouth because food should go to the mouth. That is the way to receive food. Mouth is the way to receive the food. And then the rest happens. It naturally goes to the stomach. And the stomach does the rest. Digests it and takes care of the food. So just as mouth is the medium through which food is received, what is the medium through which sound is received? Hearing. So, this Maha Mantra is, what is this Maha Mantra? Transcendental sound vibration. So sound vibration. So how this sound vibration should be received? Through hearing. It has to be received by hearing, through our ears. Now how does some of our senses, how do our senses receive the objects of the senses? How do the senses receive the objects of the senses? Okay, I'll give you an example. Eyes, what do the eyes receive? Form. Objects of the eyes are form. Now say you are standing in front of somebody and your mind is somewhere else. Will you see him? So what is important? That your mind should be tuned into that sense. Then only you will be able to perceive through the sense. Now our hearing, sound is there, our ears are there. But how do we receive the sound? Through our ears, all right, through hearing. But what should be behind our hearing? The mind. Therefore, Haridas Thakur pointed out that one of the most important aspects of chanting is attentive chanting. In our 10 offenses, this attentive chanting is not included. Why? Because it's taken for granted. When these 10 offenses were prescribed or pointed out, they were serious people. So for them it was taken for granted that they would chant attentively. So that's why it was not included, but Prabhupada included it. What comes after 10th offense? It's also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. It's not only an offense, it's the worst offense actually. So when you are chanting, one of the most important considerations should be hearing. And mind should be there. How do you hear? When the mind is there, then only you hear. If the mind is somewhere else, do you hear? You don't hear. So hearing with attention, attentive chanting is one of the most important considerations. Or not only one of them, the most important consideration. So mind you, this attentive chanting is the most important consideration. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva kevalam, Kalo nastiva, 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 gatirannatha. Sankirtan Mahajagya ki, Gaur Premanande Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Haribol, glories to shares. And Vibhu Chaitanya was there cooking the kachoris, and they was just about ready to make up the plate. And so Bhakti True Swami, Vibhu Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada wants kachori. And so immediately Vibhu Chaitanya didn't even question. He put the kachori right on a silver plate and gave it to Srila Bhakti True Swami, and he brought it back up to Srila Prabhupada. And as the story goes, Prabhupada wanted another one. They were like, he's eating fried things. If you've ever done a fast and then eat something fried or like that at the end of a fast, it's very bad for digestion. And so then again, Bhakti True Swami, without arguing, without questioning, had to go downstairs and get another kachori for Srila Prabhupada. And then he brought it back up, and Prabhupada was relishing these kachoris. And at that time he said something very significant. Don't ever question your spiritual master. So in this way, His Holiness Bhakti True Swami was always a very, very faithful disciple. And I remember one time in Mayapur, he gave a wonderful seminar on bhakti. And what is bhakti? Is it just a word? Is it, as we say, is it a noun, or is it actually a verb? And so he was going around and asking devotees, what is bhakti to you? And explaining that actually the word bhakti means love. And we shouldn't be afraid of this word love, because our whole process, the whole process that Srila Prabhupada has so kindly given us, is all about love. And even Prabhupada himself says many times, all of these rules and regulations, chanting our rounds, reading Prabhupada's books, it's all about loving Krishna. So Bhakti True Swami, His Holiness Bhakti True Swami, this seminar, I'll remember that he always was, in that particular seminar, he was reminding us that we can always be thinking of how to love Krishna, how to love our Guru, how to love Vaishnavas, and not to be shy with this word love, because that's what the word bhakti means, and loving devotional service. We try to lovingly chant our rounds, especially today on EKÀDAŞÍ. Remember, Prabhupada, we want to chant 25 rounds today on EKÀDAŞÍ to please Srila Prabhupada and to please our Lord. And as an extra offering, we can offer these rounds to His Holiness Bhakti True Swami and all of his disciples that must miss him very much. And let us be able to read something today that Bhakti True Swami, His Holiness Bhakti True Swami, has given us. When he would come to Vrindavan, he was always very kind to all of us. And he would especially come and give me a little extra attention, because my daughter, Chaitanya Nitai, he had asked her to play the part of Malati when the movie Abai was coming out. So these elder Gurukulis were asked to play the part of Malati and Gurudas and Shamasundar and Malati and Mukunda and Janaki. So they had to dye their hair and they had to play the part. And His Holiness Bhakti True Swami gave them all a lot of attention. And still today, my daughter remembers very affectionately the kindness that Bhakti True Swami shared with all of them. So without further ado, we have a story here that's glorifying Yogini EKÀDAŞÍ. So I'll read that story now, and then afterwards we're going to be reading from Krishna book. And today's story will be Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. So stay around for Krishna book at the end. So as it begins, Yudhisthira Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, I have heard the glories of the Nirjal EKÀDAŞÍ, which occurs during the light fortnight of the month of Jyeshtha, or May, June. Now I wish to hear from you about the Shuddha EKÀDAŞÍ that occurs during the dark fortnight of the month of Ashad, June and July. Kindly describe to me all about it in detail. O killer of the Madhu demon, Madhusudana. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna then replied, O king, I shall indeed tell you about the best of all fasting days, the EKÀDAŞÍ that comes during the dark part of the month of Ashad. Famous as Yogini EKÀDAŞÍ, it removes all kinds of sinful reactions and awards supreme liberation. O best of kings, this EKÀDAŞÍ delivers people who are drowning in the vast ocean of material existence and transports them to the shore of the spiritual world. In all the three worlds, it is the chief of all sacred fasting days. I shall now reveal this truth to you by narrating a history recounted in the Puranas. The king of Alakapuri, which one is it? I think it's Alakapuri. The king of Alakapuri, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, was a steadfast devotee of Lord Shiva. He employed a servant named Himamali as his personal gardener. Himamali, I almost said Himamalini. Himamali, a yaksha like Kuvera, was very lustfully attracted to his gorgeous wife, Sarupavati, who had large, enchanting eyes. Himamali's daily duty was to visit Mansarovara Lake and bring back flowers for his master Kuvera. Oh no, what happened? Oh no. With which he would use them in the puja offerings to Lord Shiva. Sorry about that. I have the font on size 20, so it skipped over a page. One day, after picking the flowers, Himamali went to his wife instead of returning directly to his master and fulfilling his duty by bringing the flowers for the puja. Absorbed in loving affairs of a bodily nature with his wife, he completely forgot to return to the abode of Kuvera. O king, while Himamali was enjoying with his wife, Kuvera had begun the worship of Lord Shiva as normal in his palace, and soon discovered that there were no flowers ready to be offered in the midday puja. The lack of such an important item, or upachar, angered the great Koshad Yaksha, or treasurer of the Devas. Even more, he was so angry, and he asked a Yaksha messenger, "Why has dirty-hearted Himamali not come with the daily offering of flowers?" "Go find out the exact reason and report back to me in person with your findings." The Yaksha returned and told Kuvera, "Oh dear Lord, Himamali has become lost and freely enjoying coitus with his wife." Kuvera became extremely angry when he heard this, and at once summoned lowly Himamali before him. Knowing that he had been remiss and dawdling in his duty and exposed as meditating on his wife's body, Himamali approached his master in great fear. The gardener first paid his obeisances and then stood before his lord, whose eyes had become red with anger and whose lips trembled in rage. So enraged, Kuvera cried out to Himamali, "O you sinful rascal! O destroyer of religious principles! You are a walking offense to the Devas. I therefore curse you to suffer from white leprosy and to become separated from your beloved wife. Only great suffering is deservedly yours. O low-born fool, leave this place immediately and betake yourself to the lower planets to suffer." And so Himamali fell at once from grace in Alakapura and became ill with the terrible affliction of white leprosy. He awoke in a dense and fearful forest where there was nothing to eat or drink. Thus he passed his days in misery, unable to sleep at night due to pain. He suffered in both winter and summer season, but because he continued to worship Lord Shiva with great faith. His consciousness remained purely fixed and steady. Although implicated by great sin and its attendant reactions, he remembered his past life because of his piety. After wandering for some time here and there, over mountains and across plains, Himamali eventually came upon the vast expanse of the Himalayan mountain ranges. There, he had the wonderful good fortune to come in contact with the great saintly soul Markandeya Rishi, the best of ascetics, whose duration of life, it is said, extends to 7 of the days of Brahma. Does anyone want to calculate that? A lot of days. Markandeya Rishi was seated peacefully at his ashram, looking as effulgent as a second Brahma. Himamali, feeling very sinful, stood at a distance from the magnificent sage and offered his humble obeisances and choice prayers. Always interested in the welfare of others, Markandeya Rishi saw the leper and called him near. "O you! What sort of sinful deeds have you done to earn this dreadful affliction?" Hearing this, Himamali painfully and ashamed replied, "Dear sir, I am a Yaksha servant of Lord Kuvera, and my name is Himamali. It was my daily service to pick the flowers from the Mansarovara lake for my master's worship of Lord Shiva. But one day I was negligent and was late in returning with the offering because I had become overwhelmed with lusty passion for enjoying bodily pleasures with my wife. When my master discovered why I was late, he cursed me in great anger to be as I am before you. Thus I am now bereft of my home, my wife, and my service. But fortunately, I have come upon you, and now I hope to receive from you an auspicious benediction, for I know that devotees such as you are merciful as the Supreme Lord Bhaktivatsal, and always carry the interest of others uppermost in their hearts. That is your nature. O best of sages, please help me." Soft-hearted Markandeya Rishi replied, "Because you have told me the truth, I shall tell you about a fast day that will benefit you greatly. If you fast on this EKÀDAŞÍ that comes during the dark fortnight of the month of Ashad, today, you will surely be freed of this terrible curse." Himamali fell to the ground in complete gratitude and offered him his humble obeisances again and again. But Markandeya Rishi stood there and lifted poor Himamali to his feet, filling him with inexpressible happiness. Thus, as the sage had instructed him, Himamali dutifully observed the EKÀDAŞÍ fast, and by its influence he again became a handsome Yaksha. Then he returned home, where he lived very happily with his wife. Lord Sri Krishna concluded, "So you can readily see, O Yudhisthira, that fasting on this Yogini EKÀDAŞÍ is very powerful and auspicious. Whatever merit one obtains by feeding 88,000 Brahmins is also obtained simply by observing the fast on Yogini EKÀDAŞÍ." So we know from Srila Prabhupada that means fasting from grains and beans, trying to chant 25 rounds today, and offering service to fellow Vaishnavas. whatever we do today, whatever we say, whatever we offer, whatever we give away, we can do as a loving offering to our spiritual master, to all our lords, and to the assembled Vaishnavas. For one who fasts on this sacred EKÀDAŞީ, that person destroys heaps of past sinful reactions and makes that person most pious. O King, thus I have explained to you the purity of YOGINI EKÀDAŞÍ. Thus ends the narration of the glories of Yogini EKÀDAŞÍ from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So we're very fortunate how Srila Prabhupada has designed our lifestyle so that twice every month we get the great fortune of following these EKÀDAŞÍ vrats. So one of the wonderful activities that we can do during EKADASIs is reading Srila Prabhupada's books, taking an hour, maybe 2 hours after our 25 rounds, and indulging our consciousness, our heart, maybe even having a friend or a family member, and you can sit down and read together. So for now, we can all read from my favorite book, Krishna book, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Tea time. So today, I think I better, just 1 second, I'm just going to go and turn on the light here. Okay. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother in Vrindavan. Therefore, with great enthusiasm, he started on a chariot for Vrindavan. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up, but still, on his arrival, they all embraced him, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda and offered his respectful obeisances. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishwara, or the Lord of the universe, who maintains everyone. The reason for this was that Krishna and Balaram maintain all living entities. And yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram, and seating him on their laps, Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age. And he shook hands with those equal in age and friendship, and with loud laughing, he embraced each one of them. Embracing, can you imagine being embraced by Balaram? After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balaram inquired from them about their welfare, and then, since they had not even seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply by being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, They never desired anything else, like elevation to the heavenly planets, or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. Remember when Narayan appeared to the gopis in the forest, and they looked at him, okay, but where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowherds. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits, and they were all so much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire about Balaramji. First, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai inquired, "My dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown up, married men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda? It is very good news that the most sinful King Kamsa has been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudeva and others who had been harassed have now been relieved. It is also very good news that you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha and Kalyavan, who is now dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarka." When the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with his loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life, surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarkapuri. Does he sometimes remember his father Nanda and his mother Yashoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved with while he was in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yashoda? And does he remember us gopis who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Sorry, all the bread's red stuck in my throat. There's been quite a few loos here, those windstorms, so it gets in your throat and in your ears. Krishna may have forgotten us in the midst of cultured women of Dwarka, but as far as we are concerned, we still remember him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time by crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dasara, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members. But although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, and relatives just to go and see Krishna. But then Krishna, without caring a pinch for our renunciation, all of a sudden renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him?" Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us. Protesting Krishna's absence from Vrindavan, another gopi said, "My dear Balaram, We are, of course, village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwarka? Don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women might be misled by Krishna, but the women in the city of Dwarka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore, I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words. Then another gopi began to speak. My dear Balaram, she said, Krishna is very clever in using words. No one can compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. This is true. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively, and by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and give themselves to him without hesitation. Another gopi, after hearing this, said, My dear friends, what is the use of talking about Krishna? If you are at all interested in passing time by talking, let us talk on some other subject other than Krishna. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Of course, Krishna is passing his days without us very happily, but we cannot pass our days happily without him. When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and they began to cry without consideration. Lord Balaram, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal, and thus, treating the gopis very respectfully, he began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. To keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied, Lord Balaram stayed there continuously for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra, or March and April, and Vaishakh, April and May. For those 2 months, he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during these 2 months. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the bank of the Jamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially the flowers known as kamamudi. The moonlight filled the sky and spread everywhere, and thus the banks of the Jamuna appeared very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. Of course, we know that Balaram had his gopis and Krishna has his gopis. The demigods known as Varuna sent his daughter Varuni in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic, and the sweet aroma of the liquid honey captivated Balaramji. Balaramji and all the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of the Varuni, and all of them drank it together. While drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Vrindavan. While drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balaram smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared like soothing morning dew. While Balaram was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis in the water of the Jamuna. Therefore he called the Jamuna to come nearby. But the Jamuna neglected the order of Balaramji, considering him intoxicated. Lord Balaram became very much displeased as the Jamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plow. Lord Balaram has two weapons, a plow and a club, from which he takes service when they are required. He wanted to bring the Jamuna by force, and he took the help of his plow. He wanted to punish the Jamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed the Jamuna, "You wretched river, you did not care for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come to me voluntarily. Now, with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams." Every once in a while here in Vrindavan, Balaram carries his plow, and then some days he has his club. So whenever we see that, we always know that Balaram is up to something here in Vrindavan. When the Jamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Balaram, and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying, "My dear Balaram, you are the most powerful personality, and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious exalted position, but now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head. That you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion as Seshanag. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full with 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your orders, and thus I have become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a soul surrendered unto you. You are very affectionate to your devotees. Therefore, please excuse my impudence and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy, may you now release me." Remember, Srila Prabhupada, he said whenever we have any problem, whenever we make mistakes, or we become a little lost on the way, we can go in front of Krishna Balaram. And he, of course, said, "My dear sirs," we can say, "My dear Krishna Balaram, my dear lords, somehow or another I'm in this situation. I am struggling. I am suffering. You please help me. You please guide me." So in this simple way, Srila Prabhupada, he taught us that a simple prayer from the heart to the Lord can give us light when we feel like we're in the darkness. Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Jamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balaram enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her waters along with the gopis. The Jamuna right now is very clean and very soft and warm. We were just bathing in her waters a few days ago. We took a boat across the Jamuna, and it was very wonderful. And in the next week or so, I'm going to organize a big Kirtan Jamuna boat ride. We do this quite frequently, and we take a picnic of Mahaprasadam, and we sit on the bank of the Jamuna in a big circle like the cowherd boys, and we have a big prayer circle in the Jamuna. We all hold hands, and we offer prayers for others in the Jamuna, and it's very wonderful. Rupa Goswami says in his Jamuna Astakam that simply by catching a whiff of the waves, the scent of the waves of Jamuna, all sins go far away. So we're very fortunate. Jamuna is right here. We invite you all to come and take shelter of Jamuna. And of course today on EKÀDAŞÍ, Vrindavan EKÀDAŞÍ Parikrama, everyone is going to Jamuna and offering a diya for someone and taking Jamuna on our head and smelling that fragrance of the waves of Jamuna. And also her waves, Rupa Goswami explains, her waves are her praying hands. So you see, Jamuna is always praying for us, and we can pray to Jamuna that we develop some love for Krishna and for Balaram. Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Jamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balaram enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her waters along with the gopis, in the same way that an elephant enjoys himself along with the many she-elephants. After a long time, when Lord Balaram had enjoyed to his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately a goddess of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After bathing in the Jamuna, Lord Balaram, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balaram's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra in the heavenly planets. The river Jamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plow of Lord Balaram. And all these branches of the river Jamuna still glorify the omnipotence of Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months, and time passed so quickly that all those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of Lord Balaram, all the gopis and other inhabitants of Vrindavan became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of those brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 65th chapter of Krishna, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Haribol! And now all the demigods shower the flowers on Krishna and Balaram. So today, what story are you going to read from Krishna book? The next chapter is the deliverance of Paundraka. We know many people today think that they're Krishna. And Paundraka, he even dressed up as Krishna and really thought he was Krishna until Krishna came along and showed him who the real Krishna is. So on chapter 67, we have the deliverance of the Dravida gorilla. While Shukadeva Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes and characteristics of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Shukadeva Goswami next narrated the story of Davida, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. The gorilla was a great friend of Balmasura, or Narakasura, who was killed by Krishna in connection with his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. Davida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother Mayenda was also a very powerful gorilla king. I got a little distracted because if you can Google today, there's a beautiful narration of Prabhupada telling the story of how Krishna kidnapped the 16,000 wives, and how when they were all released from the prison, Krishna said, well, now you can go. But they all, Prabhupada explains how they all stood there with their heads bowed down. And they were saying, no, we cannot go back to our home, because Prabhupada mentioned that even today in India, it's a little strict, but when a woman leaves the home, then she cannot be accepted back into the home. And so, of course, this is a pastime. And so then at that point, Krishna understood their minds. And he says, okay, well, you come with me. All 16,000 princesses came with Krishna. And of course, he built them 16,000 individually beautiful palaces in Dwarka. And then Prabhupada says how, but he didn't leave them to wait 16,000 nights before he could visit each one. Krishna is so amazing that he manifested himself into 16,000 Krishnas, so that each one was individually with each wife in all the different palaces. And Prabhupada chuckles and says, so a man thinks that, he can't even take care of one wife. What to speak of 16,000 wives. And of course, we know the story of how Narada Muni was very astonished to see how Krishna was playing in the palace, one palace with his sons, and in another palace, he was playing chess with his wife. And then in another palace, he was out in the garden with his family members. And another palace, he was being chivalrous and playing different kinds of fighting games with his children and with his family members. Who can be like Krishna? No one. No one can. Next time someone thinks that they're Krishna, we can ask them, oh, can you manifest yourself into 16,000 husbands for 16,000 wives? And they were all perfectly satisfied. Perfectly satisfied, Prabhupada says. So this is our wonderful Krishna. So here, sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way, he created great disturbance all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katwar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dwarka, Davida specifically made it his target of disturbance. Davida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands, he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would flood the neighboring cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. Now, not only did he create disturbance in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on their sacred sacrificial arenas. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. After putting them within the caves, he would close the entrance with large chunks of stone, which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects and puts them there within the holes of the trees where it lives. Thus Dvita regularly defied the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them. While creating such great disturbances all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds from the Revaka mountains, and so he entered that mountainous region. No, that's not how you say it. Musical sounds from the Revavatika mountains. Is that right? Revavatika mountains. And so he entered that mountainous region. There he saw Lord Balaram in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while singing and dancing. He became captivated by the beauty of Lord Balaram's body, whose every feature was very beautiful, decorated as he was with a garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balaram seemed fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. This gorilla, by the name of Dvita, could climb up into the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, so that Lord Balaram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Dvita would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking. But when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balaram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women, and sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth in the presence of Balaram. Lord Balaram's name suggests that not only is he very powerful, but that he takes great pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary stone and threw it at Dvita. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balaram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Dvita, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balaram and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought Balaram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balaram and his companions. When Lord Balaram saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand that now Balaram was going to attack him. To counteract Balaram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force he came and he struck Lord Balaram's head. Lord Balaram, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club, named, anybody know the name of the club? Sunanda, and hit the gorilla with it, severely injuring Dvita's head. Currents of blood flowed from the gorilla's head with great force, but the stream of blood simply enhanced his beauty, like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. The striking of Balaram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree, and after clipping off all its leaves, again struck Balaram's head with it. But Balaram, with the help of his club, he took another tree in his hands. But Balaram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and struck Lord Balaram's body. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balaram, Lord Balaram would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club, and the gorilla Davida would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balaram in the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless. When no more trees were available, Davida took help from the hills and threw large pieces of stone, like rainfall, upon the body of Balaram. Lord Balaram, in a great sporting mood, began to smash these big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all trees and stones, now stood before Balaram and waved his strong fist. Then, with great force, he began to beat Lord Balaram's chest with his fists. This time, Lord Balaram became most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, Lord Balaram would not strike him back with his own weapons, the club or the plow, but simply with his fists he struck the collarbone of the gorilla. This blow proved fatal to Davida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground, finally. But of course, Balaram was having a lot of fun while he was having this fight. When the gorilla fell, all the hills and forests appeared to totter. Such a tumultuous sound. After this horrible incident, all the siddhas, the great sages and saintly persons from the upper planetary system, showered flowers on the person of Lord Balaram and vibrated sounds glorifying his supremacy. Goo! Jai, Jai, all glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram ki Jai. All of them chanted, all glories to Lord Balaram. All glories to Lord Balaram. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. By killing this great demon Davida, you have initiated an auspicious era for the world. All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from outer space. After killing the great demon Davida and being worshipped by showers of flowers and glorious sounds of victory, Balaram returned to his capital city of Dwarka. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 67th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Davida Gorilla. So if you would like to take darshan of the beautiful Krishna and Balaram here in ISKCON Vrindavan, of course you can go on the YouTube and click, and you can see the beautiful Nitai Gaur with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Krishna Balaram, and of course Radhe Shyam. And you can see the Tamal tree, you can see and hear the Kirtaniyas, and the black and white marble floor, And actually you can come to Vrindavan simply by one little click. And I wish all of you well on this beautiful EKÀDAŞީ, YOGINI EKÀDAŞÍ, and take some time today to chant some especially attentive rounds, to read your favorite book, one of Prabhupada's books, of course, and take some time to offer some kindness, some love, some loving service to a fellow Vaishnava, someone maybe who needs a little extra encouragement. And may we all relish the process of Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada has so kindly given us. Hari Bol, Vanchakalpadrubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I'm finishing right on time. Hari Bol, see you next EKÀDAŞީ. Glories to Prabhupada and glories to His Holiness Bhakti Taru Swami, who we all very much miss and who we all actually can stay in contact with by hearing his lectures, by seeing him on the videos, by hearing about him. Prabhupada tells us that seeing is hearing. So we see the great Vaishnavas, we see the Lord simply by hearing their pastimes. Haribol, my dear Vaishnavas, glories to Srila Prabhupada and glories to ISKCON and glories to all of you. Hare Krishna.